Well, hey, Gundam Maniacs. Welcome to the Gundam Explained show. I'm Adam. That's Steven. That's this way. What's up, Steven? Um, you had your show yesterday and I missed it. Although I got kind of a behind the scenes, from you talking to me previously and, um, badass stuff. If you guys didn't check out the show yesterday, the minis and all that.
Yeah, talking minis, talking Gundam Assemble, and it's the same stuff that we were talking about last week, but a little bit more in depth, right?
Yeah, and from that, I cannot wait to see what you have coming. I mean, just we were even talking about this before, like the mats, the card cases. You have more stuff coming. I can't wait. So yeah, I feel bad I missed that yesterday. So guys, check out the show yesterday if you didn't. But today, we'll just continue on some more Gundam talk.
There's
Um,
never a stop to the Gundam talk. It
no, yeah.
continues year
It
round.
just there's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do. And in fact, it's like sometimes when I'm on here talking, I'm like, guys, there's something we're going to talk about again. I know it's all the time. And usually you would think, well, Gundam, well, that's why I'm here. Well, no, we're going to talk about some Gundam video game and movie stuff. Although I think that's why we're all here anyway. But
Right.
um, the other thing, okay. So I'm trying to think this week was crazy for me. And part of it was, and we talked about this a little bit, the dog sitting. Wife wanted to do dog sitting. I didn't. The dogs were here. It was a crazy experience, and I don't need to dwell on it, but it was a challenging week. And here's the other thing, though. I like animals a lot. And there's almost that, and I felt the feeling for a second. It's where I see the animal, it looks at me, and I'm like, oh, now it's time to engage, create a bond, blah, blah. And then it's the split second later, it's like, Adam, the dog's going to be gone in 2 days. Don't do it. And there is that thing that I think someone like me could get over. And I feel like it's that classic, sometimes humans have that where it's like you don't want to get too close to someone because, because I've had pets growing up when I was a kid. And I've seen situations where I get sad about pets. And it's like, I'd rather
Yeah.
not have to deal with that. And because I don't know how much it's more superficial. Sure, it's meaningful. But I almost relate it to like a Pixar movie where sometimes the emotion I get from a Pixar movie is like, it's not a real one. It was almost it was like conjured. I was
Right.
put in a spell to feel that way, where those things, the stressors, are not actually real in my life. And so
Yeah. A facsimile of emotion that you subscribe to for a brief period, but that is not permanent and not directly related to your life. It's almost it's artificial.
exactly, and I think for some reason I push back on like stuff like that, sappy, sad stuff, just for the sake of it, not that it. But then like I've heard people that seek that. It's like, oh, it's almost like when you want to seek fear. But the difference with that is a lot of the fear from like horror movies, you wouldn't really, you would hope not experience in real life. So I see that as more of like, oh, a thrill of something you wouldn't experience. But sometimes like the Pixar movies, things with dogs or the animals, they're like a real sad, I don't know. How do you feel about that? I just kind of emo
I'm
dumped.
100% guilty of that. I love watching things that, make me sad. There have been movies that I'll
Oh,
put on, and it's just like me and my daughter watching, and I'm sitting there just like, just yeah, uh-huh, okay."
wow.
Shoot, even one of my favorite movies series to watch with my daughter is, How to Train Your Dragon.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Every single one of those movies has a tearjerker of an ending, right?
Mm.
Um, I'm not gonna spoil any of them for you, but suffice to say, the How to Train Your Dragon movie series, fantastic. DreamWorks knocked it out of the park with those ones, and excellent voice acting by, like, Gerard Butler
Oh,
and,
yeah.
not Christopher Mintz-Plasse, Jay Baruchel,
Oh,
another,
yeah. I can
Canadian
I can
comedian.
understand that mix up.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I think Christopher Mintz-Plasse is actually in it as well as one of the side characters.
Oh,
But, I think the feeling that you're describing is very similar to this, theme, this trope that occurs in fiction and in real life, to be honest with you. Are
yeah.
you familiar with the hedgehog's dilemma?
No, but I feel like I should considering I like Sonic. But go on.
Right. So the hedgehog's dilemma is it's a trope around romance because, in order to be close to a hedgehog, in order to, love another hedgehog, you're going to get
Oh,
close
yeah.
enough to be pricked by their quills. And so I actually, come to think of it, and just to tie the knot on this, there actually is a Gundam Dynasty Warriors level. I think it's in Dynasty Warriors Gundam Reborn, and it's one of the ultimate mode missions that's called the Hedgehog's Dilemma, and I think it's
Oh,
related to, like, the cyber new type relationships, so people like
wow.
Floor and Camille and Quest and Char, these characters that are drawn to each other, that want to be in romantic relationships with one another, but that create that tension where it's like the closer they get to each other, the more they hurt each other. And so what you're talking about really reminds me of that theme
Yeah,
because that's how I feel when there's a dog that
yeah.
I want to be close to, that I want to have a relationship with, and it's like, but I know that that dog is leaving, like, if it's a foster dog or whatever the case may be, it's like, I know that they're not going to be in my life, and so it's gonna hurt even more the closer I get to them. Is am I
Yeah. No,
summing that up?
you are, because I think then there is a difference between the Pixar movie and the dog thing. I think the dog thing is the more real one, but it's almost like it's an easier choice sometimes to just disengage. Um, the movie though, yeah, sometimes you could be in a space where that is an emotion that you need to allow to get out, and you do it through watching something. Whereas for me, I think it affects me differently. Like when I see one of these movies and it makes me sad, I'm like, I don't want to feel this. I nope, nope, nope. I don't want to. Not that I don't like to cry. In fact, I do. But yeah, there's something about yeah, I wonder how much like a horror movie, maybe sometimes a Pixar movie, and maybe it depends on your experience or your age, is something that you like. I don't know how to explain it. Like for me, watching Blade is like my type of the feels I want because it's a dude doing martial arts to vampires. That seems like an amazing setting. And he has a sword. And so, like, that type of stuff, it's like, oh, I want to be in that. It's not straight up horror. It's not sad, even though people die. And I don't know maybe how much that is a safe space. How much is it for nerds that like me, or maybe that's the wrong way to put it, or people that gravitate to IP stories more like that, are finding an escape. And not that it's a real escape in terms of their life is in shambles, but more of as an emotional person, you would rather be in things that don't drive those.
I think that you have nailed on the head the reason that the, like, Marvel movie phenomenon even took off is because
Mm.
and you and I have talked about this, like, personally, you and I both have a huge craving for justice. We hate seeing injustice in the world, and when in real life, we see constant injustices, we see constant offenses go unpunished, we see constant people that don't deserve bad things happen to them, what is really relieving and what helps us kind of exercise those feelings, not exercise like working out, but
Right.
exercise like, cast the demons out. What helps us exercise those feelings is watching another person enact justice on our behalf in a way. So it's like Blade
Mm,
is a great
yeah,
example. The
that's right.
Punisher is one of everyone's favorite superhero. Like everyone loves the Punisher because he goes after the bad guys, right? Like he makes
Yeah.
them pay for what they've done when the justice system fails them. And so it's like those types of stories resonate with a lot of people because I think a lot of people crave justice. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
And even with Blade, that's a good example, or Aliens, it's where the bad guy is also faceless. So in a way, I'm also having to escape the responsibility of sympathizing. And so I fully get the justice. It's like, yes, drop a nuke on LV-426, I don't have to worry about the bad guys. Yeah, so that's very interesting. And I think that's why then I like Gundam so much, because it's literally both. When there's mobile suit battles, those are faceless enemies. But
It's true.
sometimes I think the biggest fear I got out of when I would watch the original Gundam, and this was even, 4 or 5 years ago, were when the characters were in space, because they made them feel so isolated, and you would know, okay, someone's gonna die, and they did a good job of that. So I think Gundam does a good job of really showcasing emotions in genuine ways, authentic ways, while giving you that faceless injustice sometimes you just need. And maybe that's what Tomino was mad about, not realizing this was more of a cope for people, you know? It's
All
not. Yeah.
Hey, how about all art is a cope? It
Oh,
just You're
oh,
just
yeah.
coping for, you know?
Exactly, because you're expressing. Why would you need to express unless there's
Yeah.
something that you need to cope with?
Unless you're
That's really good.
repressing something, why would you need to express it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. We weren't supposed to get this deep until the end. Isn't that usually how
Right.
we cap off ours? Well,
All right, good night, everybody.
yeah,
Good show.
exactly. No, okay, we're gonna move on because there's something I've been wanting to talk to you about. Um, is it No, it's not called that. Oh, what is the game I'm playing? Um, Alive, Left Alive. Is it Left Alive? I don't know if you had you happened to catch me playing this at all?
I
I know you
haven't,
saw the
but
artwork and you're like,
that
"What?"
that's Yoji Shinkawa,
Yes.
right? Of
Yes.
Metal Gear Solid fame.
Oh my gosh, what's going on? Okay, let me get back
Yeah, I
to
know
this.
a thing or two about a thing or
Oh.
two.
No, so yeah, one, I figured you would see the artwork and love it. So, here's this game. This is actually a mecha game. And actually, let me share my screen with everyone. It's okay, Front Mission. This
Yes.
was a Front Mission game that came out in 2019 that is more of a Metal Gear Solid type of Front Mission.
Very cool.
Now, there's still mecha, but most of the game, okay, let's see if I can just get into where it just shows some combat. I don't know. It's on foot. Actually, I might as well just go to the Gundam Explained YouTube channel. Let's see.
If only
Oh,
there was a guy that,
oh,
you know,
oh, no.
showcased the gameplay from these things.
I know, right? Exactly. And luckily I did that recently. Was that to No, yeah, that was today. So, oh, sorry. I didn't really prepare this. Sorry, everyone. So basically, it is that sort of third person sneaking around. Steven, you would know exactly. Like, you would jump in and you would know this. The thing is, it looks great. It sounds great. It plays great. But this suffers from something that I feel like I first really discovered from the Avengers game is once you're in the level, it's not as interesting as all the parts make it out to be. You know what I mean? Like, and so if you go like the Steam reviews on this game, Left Alive, mostly negative.
Oh,
Like,
it's a
no
shame.
one likes this game. But here's the trick. And this is something I discovered recently. When you start a new game, put it on the easiest difficulties called casual. And so the game is supposed to be hard, but because it's has issues, then it's not fun that it's hard. So
I
by putting it
see.
on easy, it's still hard, but I don't die as often. I have died, but it's like not as often. Also, you have to get to a save point to save. So if you're running around and you're constantly crafting. So, and I don't remember I think there was a little bit of this in Metal Gear Solid, but you're constantly crafting to survive in it. Like, if you need to take, you could run out of bullets and then you have to find bullets. And each level is like an open world, level where you're running around, cover
That's
system.
cool.
Yeah. And so it has mech combat. So there's the mechs, the Wanzers or Wanzers. I think it would be Wanzer, but in the first level, they tease you by you come across one that's damaged. It can't walk, but you can get in and then use. And it felt really good. It was slower. I had the shooting and all that. And I might play this tomorrow on Blue Gamer. I might not. I just stopped. I'm on level 3 where they go on the intercom, they're like, "Hey, there's an unused Wanzer over there. You can get into it." And I'm like, "Oh." So I am
Game
going
over.
to well, I'm gonna record it because I think what would be interesting is really you uh, with how much people don't like this game, how often have people talked about the mecha combat in this? Who knows? What if it offers something new? And so I really want to dissect the mecha combat in this and see if it does anything. But Steven, this I feel like even you might think it's worth playing if you like get it super. Yeah, it's 5.99 right now on,
Yeah.
and it has good graphics. It plays like Metal Gear, but yeah, just put it on easy. Oh, you know what else it has? Oh, I'm sorry. I keep seeing you're about to say something, and I no, you go ahead.
Well, I
Let
have
me
a
take a
question
breather.
more than anything. You go ahead.
Well, you also, and you might not like this, there are missions where you find survivors and you have to follow them to the destination without getting killed. Luckily, I even moved 3 survivors at once today and no one got killed. So,
See, I like that stuff though. Like it reminds me of the Dead Rising game where
yes,
like you
that's
had to
exactly.
escort survivors. So, this begs the question, and this is again, I think that this ties back to Gundam in terms of like where you have franchise baggage.
Mhm.
So, how many of the negative reviews for Left Alive are less related to the quality of the game itself and more related to the quality as an entry in the Front Mission series?
That is a very good question because when Front Mission Evolved came out in 2009 or 11, it got negative reviews because it
Totally
wasn't,
bombed.
yeah, it wasn't like the other one. I would say if you do read the reviews, it's more about how it turns out. Like,
Okay.
even in the bad reviews, like, look at how long this bad review is, because there is
Thorough.
something there. You know what I mean? It's like, this is, I feel like, the greatest critique a game designer could get because it's acknowledging that this game has some pieces that work. The problem is just altogether it doesn't.
And honestly, anybody that takes the time to write a review that thorough you got a
Yeah,
big
like
boss in there. Um, Anybody who takes the time to write a review that thorough, clearly they're passionate about the game.
yeah,
Like, if the game were just bad for bad's sake, you'd say, like, "This game sucks, send." But
yep.
when you have this many, critiques to express, it kinda makes you wonder, like, did you secretly like it? Did you want it to work? But
I know. Yeah, and that's the thing. There's a lot of games that I can think of that no one really liked, and even I can recognize is. Oh, hold on, let me check something here. Um, um, hold up. It's saying the stream might have stopped. But let me just check. No, okay, everything looks good. Okay, okay. Just in the software, but okay. What was I gonna get at? Okay, yeah. There was a game, GI Joe. I don't know. It came out like maybe 5 years ago. It was a third-person action game where you could be the different GI Joes. The controls weren't great. The level design was just okay. But you know what? I know what it was trying to do. I didn't have to spend too much with mechanics. I just went and had a good time. And I feel like there's a lot of these games, and I feel like Left Alive is that. But what's funny is I didn't discover it until I put it on easy. And I need to remember that because I've come across that sometimes where it's like a game that I'm not that interested in, but I like the way it looks and feels and just the ambiance. So it's like play it on easy.
play like a games journalist.
that's that's a good point. That is interesting. That's a whole other discussion. Oh my gosh, that is
But you know what? Like,
yeah.
honestly, I think you've touched on something because I've seen you play, like, Metal Gear Solid 5, and what was interesting is when you played the game the way you're supposed to play it and going all stealthy, you were I don't wanna say you were struggling with it, but you were just, like, less entertained by it.
Yeah.
But then when you started running and gunning and, like, you almost made the levels look easy, it
Well,
was like, "Well, wait a second, then what's the point of doing all the, like, the sneaky breaky when you can just."
but I think that's what makes the game good. And there's another cool thing about that, Steven, is it reminds me, have you been reading the Resident Evil Requiem reviews? Because I know you're a Resident Evil fan. Or have you been?
Yeah, actually, my brother has, like, beaten the game 3 times and has
Oh,
not shut up about it.
okay. So that's the thing. So there's people that it took them 12 hours to beat, and then they'd go back and beat it in 2 hours. And So I think what we're describing here is more of the signs of a well-crafted game because it allows people of different experiences to have different outcomes, but then it's made to then try it again or to keep playing again. It's like with the Sniper Elite series. That's another game that's very similar to this. I'm in
Yeah.
this big world. I'm kind of surviving. I can scope around and shoot. It's like you can be casual, but then when you're engaged, it could be really bad. And so um, I think I think this can tie into a next part. Do we jump into that right now? Maybe we do. Okay. So, yeah, we're going to jump into the next part because we always talk about how there needs to be a Gundam game, right?
100%.
And then there's a Gundam
It's
movie
got to
coming.
happen.
But there was also, oh man, did you see it? It might have been Diki Chu, Xeon Scanlations on Twitter. Yeah, I think he was like posting something about an interview where they said why, Gundam, they don't know why, or like why Gundam wasn't working in the West. Something similar to that. So
I didn't
I
see
think,
that. Maybe did I get blocked?
oh, well, okay. Well,
No, I don't
that's
know.
funny though, if true. But so what I did is I got with ChatGPT to be like, what are the top 10 entertainment IPs in the US? Because I feel like I have good tastes, and I would feel like more people would know Gundam. It's like nowadays where it's like I talk to people and they know Evil Dead and Bruce Campbell. I feel like there's more of that nowadays, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's cool. Um, I didn't know the top one franchise in the United States is actually Pokemon and it's Japanese, which I think proves it could be from another culture. That's one thing we can scratch off. You know, a different
It's not a
culture.
cultural divide where,
Yeah.
Americans only like Schwarzenegger and Stallone and action flicks. It's like, no, no. I mean, Americans can really get behind a Japanese, Chinese IP, and
Yep.
if it's the right
Exactly.
IP, if it hits all the right cylinders, right?
Yep. And I guess I don't know what really made it take off. I remember when it came out and it just wasn't my thing, but the games on Game Boy were huge, but then there was the cartoon. Now, I was probably right at the age where I wasn't watching cartoons, even though
Same
video
here.
game related, but it's just because I wasn't into Pokemon. Oh, I remember my brother being into it. So I remember that. Okay. And then the number two is Star Wars, which I would almost not know if it's Marvel or Star Wars. That's really number two, right?
What's fascinating to me is I feel like maybe 10, 15 years ago, Star Wars would have been number 1.
Yeah.
Do you think that that would be the case, or do you think that, like
No, I think so. I really do think it was degraded over time. And you would think, well, Marvel's with Disney. And it's like, well, I think from the start, Marvel always had a good team behind it making the movies. Now, that did actually change too, you know. But I
True.
think and I almost feel like what happened to Star Wars was not the storytelling, but the messaging. Not that it was supposed to be nefarious. There was probably ideas, hey, we have a wider audience, we can put more messaging in here. And that kind of diluted, not that they meant to, but it diluted it. Whereas Marvel, I think from the beginning, and maybe it goes with what we were talking about, why people like the stuff so much. You can just easily throw in someone charming to be the superhero to stop the bad guys, and people will dig it. And you got John Favreau, who with the Mandalorian, you can almost argue that other than Andor is probably some of the best, the first Mandalorian, some of the
Right.
best Disney Star Wars, whereas he also did Iron Man and set up the MCU. So you had very smart foundational writers setting up the tone.
Because we
Um,
had a lot of Marvel movies come out prior to Iron Man, but Iron Man was the first Marvel Studios movie, and that really kicked everything off. So it really did set the tone for everything going forward. And maybe this is skipping forward a little bit, but I'd like to draw attention to the fact that number 3 is Marvel. Do you wanna give a spoiler as to what number 5 is?
oh, Batman
So isn't
alone.
it Alone?
Yeah.
So isn't it interesting that, like, DC Comics, Superman, like, Wonder Woman, they don't make the list, but Batman does.
Yeah.
Whereas Marvel is this kind of, amalgamation of a bunch of different heroes. And so it's interesting, and you know, we'll get to it further down the list, but isn't it interesting how just like Marvel, this generic Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's not a specific character, it's not a
Right.
specific movie, it's
Bec
Marvel.
and because comic sales have been dropping in general, right? Like, for a while now, so it's not like the comics themselves, and yeah, it even says in here, MCU, and obviously
Yeah,
ChatGPT, grain of salt, whatever, but,
sure.
the other thing too is, I think in that, isn't it where, like, Spider-Man's number 1 and then X-Men is number 2?
And
Like
that's what I would argue, is it's
yeah,
like, really, number 3 should be Spider-Man, because
yeah.
for some reason, and, you know, we might talk about this, but, like, Spider-Man really resonates with people more than any other Marvel hero.
Yeah, and I do think because Peter Parker, and then as he's Spider-Man, like, it's that thing where it's not super serious, but you can relate, etcetera, and what's interesting about Batman is it's, like, the dark part, but people relate, it's like people want both, and that's a cool thing if we look at this list, it's a bunch of different things, in the end of the day, it's how well it's made.
Right.
But after Marvel number 3, number 4 is just Mickey Mouse, Disney core IP, which I mean, I guess then you can say Disney in general must be out there, but since this is really looking at the brands themselves, I almost feel like even compared to Star Wars, Marvel is kind of cheating by just saying Marvel.
A little bit.
I feel like you would, but I don't know. Because with Star Wars, I feel like there's just since the 70s, Marvel's been around. I don't know. Maybe I'm in real time changing my mind. But
Well, you
to
know,
go
with, like, Disney IP, you know, is it Frozen? Or is
right,
it
there's
like
the
yeah,
parks.
because Mickey Mouse himself, I think, has lost a lot of his
Right.
cultural weight, but there
And
are a lot of Disney properties that are popular.
yeah, yeah, I think you bring up Frozen's a good idea, and I'm trying to think at the parks, what are some attractions? I can't even I was there a few years ago, but I forget what like, I try to think what's the main attraction from I know Frozen experience, yeah, who knows?
Lilo and Stitch,
Yeah, so that's interesting. It's not one individual movie, show, or character, it's the Disney core IP.
yeah.
Okay, Batman, I love the Batman thing. I've always liked Batman. I was lucky that, I was born in 83, 89 was when that movie came out and my dad took me. I remember it. Remember everything. Um and I think Batman works because it has that dark quality to it that I think we connect with, which is interesting because Star Wars does that. Like especially the first movie. If you think about like uh Uncle Owen, Aunt Beru went find their skeletons, charred,
It's
that
pretty
yeah,
pretty
that's pretty
messed up
dark.
visual for a
Yeah.
kid to see.
Um, but okay, hey, Spider-Man is on this list. That's interesting. I guess I didn't
Right, they
get that.
delineate between Marvel and Spider-Man.
That's interesting. Hmm. But I bet that's done on purpose. I mean, there's a lot of things like just think, for instance, Spider-Man has a lot with Sony specifically, which is a very interesting way. The movies and the games, the two things that's kind of the core of what I'm going to get at here. Spider-Man has the biggest movies, the biggest games, and they're on, and I think that's a big part, and that's something we're seeing here. I mean, look at the Batman Arkham games, like so. Okay, Harry Potter. I never got into Harry Potter, but I get it. I guess. I mean, I don't follow much, magic stuff like wizards.
You
So
still have to watch Lord of the Rings, man. I'm
I
like,
know I was thinking about that the other day. I
"You're
was.
killing me."
It's good. And they're making new ones with the same actors, apparently.
Are they? I had no idea.
Oh, I don't know. I sometimes hear things on the side, and since I don't know Lord of the Rings that well, I was probably just um okay. Super Mario. So again, Super Mario started from being a video game,
Another
and
Japanese IP too.
yeah, another Japanese IP started as a video game, and now super successful movie series. There's only been one, but I think it's pretty telling that the second one coming out here pretty soon is going to do good.
Excuse me. There was a very popular '90s film,
Oh,
Super
okay.
Mario Bros.
Which
starring
I
John Leguizamo and, oh, what was that
Bob
actor's name?
Hoskins,
Bob Hoskins, yeah.
which looking back, again, I'll always remember watching it in the theater and as a kid being like, "What am I seeing?" But looking back, I love that stuff.
It's so
Like,
good.
I wonder how people in Japan think when they're watching Power Rangers, the Mighty Morphin Power. You know what I mean? It's like they're taking their Sentai action scenes, but then a whole new plot with, like it's yeah. Okay.
Definitely.
And then Call of Duty, which is interesting. That's a video game. They're making a movie. I don't know if you heard. They're making it's oh, who was it? I totally forgot off the top of my head. They have anyway, I think it's Paramount also that's doing it, but and I forgot who the writer was, but and then Grand Theft Auto, another video game, and that's kind of dark, realistic, real life. I will
Okay.
just say from the top 10 IPs, the IPs themselves, what they represent, isn't what makes them popular. I think it's what they've delivered. Pokemon, in terms of the gaming, people love the games. Star Wars, people love the movies. Marvel, people love the movies. Batman, Spider-Man, Harry Potter has that game, the Hogwarts Legacy, that apparently is killing it. So,
It was a lot of fun.
oh, did you play it?
Yeah. Yeah, my wife and I played through, Hogwarts Legacy, and it's like the combat system is actually really engaging and fun to play with. So I don't know. It's,
Man, I
I
should check
it
it
wa
out.
I was floored, like, it was beyond what I was expecting from a Harry Potter video game.
Is it open world?
Yeah.
Oh, I might have to check that out just to check it out. I tell you,
I think that you'd get a kick out of it. Even if it's
yeah,
not, like, 100% up your alley, there's definitely something there. Yeah.
yeah, I'd like to check that out. So, and in this list, we don't see Gundam, and it's like, well, again, as someone with good taste, that would say my favorite actor is Bruce Campbell. I think that's someone with good taste. You would think Gundam would be that popular, and it's not, and so it's like, why, right? So I asked, what are the differences? And to me, it's like Gundam doesn't have. I mean, they have the movies, but they don't have like an English released movie other
Right.
than like, later on translating blah blah blah, or the live action that's coming. And Gundam doesn't even really have a video game. You can't really look and be like, that's it. I mean, you can say the Gundam versus games or SD gener. I think they even call it out here. So here are the reasons. I want to go through each one and just get your thoughts. So one thing is Gundam is primarily a model kit ecosystem, which makes sense. I mean, that's kind of what helped it at the beginning.
Right.
But how much would you say a plastic collectible is more of a entry point into an IP, and it shouldn't be that's it. Like, okay, here's just some models and then that's it. You know what I mean? I mean, it's got
I
the
mean,
shows, but
Mel Brooks would disagree with you because obviously of Spaceballs fame, merchandising,
oh, well,
merchandising.
right. But
Spaceballs the video game, Spaceballs the doll,
exactly. And I
you know,
almost feel like they did it reverse,
they
where it's like they do the merchandising, then they're like, well, then let's make shows about it, which
right.
I guess can work, but I think there is something into I don't know.
Well,
I don't
that
know.
that goes to, and I'm gonna get nerdy on you. Um, I wrote my graduate school, thesis about the Transformers.
Oh, yeah, I remember you told me that, yeah.
So, in particular, what I was talking about was narrative marketing. So, when you look at the Transformers toys, and what was interesting is this came up when we were doing our, like, video game stuff earlier because we were, using 3D models of the Valkyrie from Macross.
Oh, yeah.
That model has been recycled for a lot of different things because you can see that same model, the same Valkyrie is in BattleTech, the same
Right.
Valkyrie is Jetfire in the Transformers. And that's
Yep.
because it was from a failed toy line in Japan. Like the Diaclone and the Takara toy lines that were transforming toys were failed toy lines because they made cars that turn into robots, but that didn't mean anything to kids. That didn't resonate with kids. It
Right.
wasn't until an American by the name of Bob Budiansky, working for Marvel at the time, speaking of Marvel,
Oh, yeah.
created the Transformers comic books and created this story of Autobots and Decepticons and Cybertron and created good guys and bad guys. And all of a sudden, kids knew how to play with the toys because they didn't understand, like, why am I playing with a robot that turns into a truck? It's like, no, I'm playing as Optimus Prime, the leader of the Autobots, and he turns into a truck because he has to hide on Earth. Like, there's a story behind it now. So it's not totally uncommon to start with a physical product and then
Right.
come up with an IP and a story that so I think that it works. Obviously, Gundam is a little bit different because it started as an anime to sell toys, but it was
Yeah.
like the model kits are in part what brought it back from the dead. So it was like,
Yeah, even though it's funny because even though the model kits are what brought it back, once it came to Zeta, there wasn't to me, it doesn't seem like any mandate of, okay, we need to really follow the strict merchandise anime. It was more of, okay, do whatever you want, which I think helped it. But
yes,
then not that they lost it, but I think what you're getting at is has evolved. I think the consumer likes context. We like canon. We like things to have meaning. We put meaning into things. Sure, if an action figure first came out, the meaning would just be, oh, look, I have this representation of something. But once the collectible is just a normalized thing, people will like to put meaning into things. And
yeah,
um, uh, so you can't, I guess, this being what I think this works for Gundam. It's not like this is taken away from it. They can just probably leverage it more. Um,
sure.
Okay, the barrier to entry is higher, which I think in a lot of ways that makes sense. So I just explaining what Gundam is, where to start. So it's
If
like
only there was a
example.
YouTuber that explained Gundam to you.
I know, I know. Like when I go on YouTube, I'm like, there's no one explaining Gundam. So no, but Pokemon collect cute creatures. Mario jump and run. Spider-Man superhero. Gundam requires understanding things like universal century politics, the factions, timelines, mobile suit design differences. The entry point can feel dense, especially in the West. And it makes sense. Even when I first got into it, I had to mentally make myself available to research and take in and know, oh, this is not this and not this and not this. So um, and then it's funny because they talk about shows like Seed and the idea that like Seed almost comes back to sort of, oh, let's retell it again and see if we can capture another market. And while it's good, what it does is it further splinters or fragments what could be a larger whole. At
Mhm.
that point, you're creating lanes that then fans might go down. So then if you're trying to create a cohesive Western thing, it's hard to. Okay, lack of a Western breakout film, but we know that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I mean, Avengers, Star Wars, Mario. So
So, if I may, I
yeah,
think that you brought up a very good point with Mobile Suit Gundam Seed, and this is where I think we can tie this into, like, the Sentai and Power Rangers thing, because
yeah,
Western audiences and Eastern audiences, I think, are a little bit different, and I'm gonna argue that Saban knew exactly what they were doing, and I'm gonna use
okay,
the Avengers and Gundam and Power Rangers and Sentai as an example.
okay.
Hear me out on this one.
Uh, I'm excited.
So, it's common knowledge that when the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers came to the US, obviously they took all of the Sentai footage and they recast all of the Power Rangers with American actors and reshot all of the out of costume scenes, right?
Yeah,
But when they ran out of episodes of Sentai, they didn't want to change the actors the way that Japan did with Sentai, where it was like, "Oh, we every series we do another set of 5 kids. What difference does it make?" Right? But what Saban realized is that Americans, in particular, get attached to specific characters. They don't get attached to an IP loosely, they get attached to specific characters. And so when you branched off and you had the Ninja Power Rangers, you had Power Rangers Zeo, you had Power
yeah,
Rangers Turbo, you ended up recycling the same actors and using different Sentai series to fill in that story. And
yep,
that was when Power Rangers was at its peak. If you notice, after like Spain Power Rangers like in Lost in Space or
yeah,
Lost Galaxy or whatever, that's when it started to taper out and become like, it's not as interesting anymore. In the
Yep.
same way, do you notice how Marvel properties, Captain America is always Steve Rogers, Iron Man is always Tony Stark, Spider-Man is always Peter Parker. They don't swap out casts in between stories. In fact, they will even age up characters and say like, "Oh no, Tony Stark, he didn't get injured in the Vietnam War. He got injured in Afghanistan." Like
Oh
because
yeah.
we don't want to get rid of Tony Stark. We would rather change Tony Stark's origin story to make sure that people can still latch on to the story of Tony Stark than just come up with a new Iron Man. And they've tried to do this several times where it's like, "Hey, let's swap out Steve Rogers with Bucky Barnes and like see how that goes." Doesn't happen. "Let's swap out Bruce Wayne with Dick Grayson." Doesn't like it lasts
Yeah.
maybe 6 months tops, right? American audiences get attached to a specific character. And so if you're going to come out and say that the way to revive Gundam is to start with a brand new cast, you've already lost the plot when it comes to an American audience because they are not going to attach themselves the same way that they would to an Amuro, to a
Yeah.
Char, to a Sayla.
And you know what? That even further strengthens Tomino with Zeta because it started off as traditionally Japanese new characters, but then all of a sudden there's this Quattro guy, which and then Amuro shows up, and it's almost like whoa, impactful than them being there at at the beginning, even though we know Quattro. But I think that's a really good point, and I wonder how much this has to do with and I don't know how if this is true or not, but I feel like as Americans we have kind of less of a mythology as like the Japanese do. So I feel like it is more. I think it makes more sense for us to latch on to characters rather than ideas, concepts, eras. Like a lot of times, a lot of Japanese content has an aura to it where it's taking an era and doing something with it, or imbuing an
Exactly.
era. Whereas you think about in America, we talk about like Davy Crockett or like John
Take us
Henry.
still. Yeah.
Yeah, like these little things that they're not too long ago, really, but like we have these characters. So what part of this young American history were they involved in? And
True.
so I think then when we're seeking out stories as an American, as a Westerner, we're just used to that. And I- so then it makes me think, because you bring that up, it's like, then is that how smart Tomino was with Zeta? Where he really because at first, as an American, I'm like, why isn't Amuro here? But then he killed it when, figuratively, literally. But
Well, there's definitely a value to passing the torch, right? And I think this goes back to like The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings is like, when you first start reading Lord of the Rings and you're like, wait, where's Bilbo? What's Bilbo Baggins doing? It's like, oh no, he's old. He gave the ring to his nephew. Like and that's the kind of vibe that I get from Zeta Gundam, where it's like
yeah, yeah.
Amuro's not the guy anymore. He has to pass that on to the next generation. And there's a poetic justice to that, and even in Zeta Gundam, that's one of the things that Quattro tells Camille is like, "Oh, the old generation can't build the new era." It's like that's a thematic,
Mm.
like,
Yeah.
statement that Tomino was trying to make. But I think, yeah, you touched on it, especially with the, Westerners not having a mythology, and, it makes me think of, like, Legend of Zelda, where we've talked about that a lot, where in Japan, they crank out the Legend of Zelda games that are essentially just retellings of the original story of Link, Zelda, Ganon,
Mhm.
all that stuff. But isn't it interesting that Western fans, it's like, hey, when's the remake of Ocarina of Time coming out?
Yeah, and how
When's
is it connected in the timeline?
right, where does it fit in the timeline? We
Yeah.
don't we don't accept retellings of the story. We want the continuation of the story.
Yeah, like, we're expecting the factual information instead of being accepting of mythology as mythology. Like, you don't need to know. And then I wonder, again, in Japanese culture, is that a more elevated or mature way to take in content, maybe? I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's all relative, but I don't
Right.
know, but culturally, is there an evolution of how you can take in art and maybe appreciate it more? It's like when I first listened to like black metal. When I first listened to black metal, I was like, "There's no way I would ever listen to this music." And then over time, I started liking it. As I understood how to play instruments, I would like it even more because I'm like, wow, that guy is doing that. This is an amazing song. So there's so much context you could put into why you like or dislike something. And yeah, I wonder how culturally different that is. So, and I almost feel like you could never know because let's say I spent the first 20 years of my life here, then 20 in Japan learning Japanese and Japanese culture, and then someone did the reverse. We would still have a different experience than someone that was just culturally Japanese or just culturally Western. I kind of like that. I kind of like that. There's always going to be that little alien nation. I don't know if that's the word of like
No,
ideas and culture just
definitely.
for our differences. And that's kind of neat. Um, anyway, AI wouldn't tell you that, but okay. Um, all right. Okay. The game situation, which I like that the AI told me that I called this out correctly. Thank you, AI. But so, okay, Gundam lacks a breakout AAA game. Some exist, like the Extreme Versus games, G Generation, Mobile Suit Battle Operation 2. I think those are three good examples of successful Gundam games. Um, and lines of games, like with Extreme and G Generation. But none of these are equivalent to Spider-Man or Jedi Survivor or Arkham City. Like, those are big IPs, right? Those games converted millions of non-fans into franchise fans. Gundam games mostly target existing Gundam fans. Um, I think
Source.
no, but like, doesn't that just make sense? Like, for as much as we are gamers and we like Gundam, like we know, like, yeah, there's fun Gundam games, but not what you would expect from a Gundam, the Gundam IP. Bandai has so many IPs that have amazing games. I'm not a big Dragon Ball fan. I think it's neat, but I played that game. I think it was Kakarot or whatever. It was open world. That was fun as heck. Uh,
Yeah.
I learned more, and my youngest was helping me too. He was telling me some of the characters and all that. Um, it, and I think so. This goes back to what I was saying earlier when I said this would get us into because playing Left Alive. How fun would it be where you're just some no name Federation officer that area we were in was where Xeon came and occupied it. So almost like if they made Requiem for Vengeance into a game where you have to sneak around an area, get supplies every once in a while. Like maybe every level there's a mobile suit battle. It's like
Yeah.
near the end, you finally get to where you can get into a mobile suit, and it escalates every level, like more mobile suits. I, and why I think this helps too is it could be that converting that fan into a Gundam fan from a video game doesn't require the game necessarily to be a mech only game. It might be the secret here is to just make it a game about the universe. So you maybe and what do people like third person action games like Fortnite, and so you might as well have it where you're a third person character running around, but then there's the mecha. How you Titanfall is a good example of how popular Titanfall 2 is, especially. Just have it where the sequences of the mobile suits might not be too often, but when they happen, it's very rewarding. People are like, oh shit, I got to learn more about these mobile suits. But I think if you give it the high end graphics, awesome third person gameplay where you're under attack, I would love. I'm running around in the city and it's like dusk, and I just see paratroopers just in the distance coming down. And it's like, oh shit, what's gonna happen? You know?
I wonder how much of this goes back to what you were just talking about when it comes to cultural differences. Because when I look at the Versus series, G Generation, and Battle Operation 2, do you know what I see?
No.
Arcade games.
Yeah. Okay. I see. Yeah. None of. Yeah.
There is a very huge arcade culture in Japan that we do not have in the United States or anywhere else, really, honestly. But when you look at like Marvel Spider-Man, Jedi Survivor, Arkham City, these are story-driven, narrative,
Oh, yeah.
exploration games. Every single Gundam game, there's without exception, every single Gundam game is mission-based, level-based,
An
and sometimes it's
arcade.
even, like, time-based. So
Yeah.
it's like, just destroy as many mobile suits within 5 minutes as you possibly can. How are you supposed to digest a universe? How are you supposed to take in the story when your mission is essentially just a time attack mode?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm looking at these games and there really is not a narrative-driven Gundam game at all. They all have that same arcade mission structure.
I mean, and that's the thing. That's what's sad about Noisy Fairy. What was it? Code Fairy?
Yeah, Code Fairy.
Was it had a story, but it was held back by this mission structure. So it just felt disjointed. Like, okay, next mission, next mission. I love that it had an intro and opening, and that should have just been a web series, and then or maybe the game plays a little different and it's more integrated as you go. But I think that's what it is. It's the exploration, the narrative, and an action-based narrative exploration. I think those three are key. I've learned that with myself recently playing more JRPGs. I'm realizing I don't mind if the action isn't amazing, if at least I'm going on this exploration journey and learning some things along the way. And yeah, I think if you're in a colony being taken over by Principality of Xeon, you're running around, maybe going to terminals. Let's say you could go to a hangar and you can get into one of those lift thingies and then just all you want, explore the mobile suits. I mean,
Yeah.
that would that would be awesome.
So imagine this. Imagine a remake of the game Bully, but it's
Oh,
set in Ostacasia,
okay.
and you
I think that would do really good. People like that
people
stuff.
might actually like Witch from Mercury after that.
I really feel like that would sell a whole lot. I would have, even though I'm not a big fan of Witch from Mercury, if you came to me in our company, you're like, hey Adam, I want to do this, I would be like, green light, great idea. Because there's something there. And what's cool about what you brought up, let's say they do different games like that. You can then have it whenever a mobile suit component comes up, it plays different in context to whatever that narrative game is.
Yeah.
Like maybe the way you would do the battles in Witch from Mercury, since it's a school stuff, maybe the way the controls and everything, it's just that type for that game. And that kind of helps differentiate.
It's kinda interesting going back to, like, the Hogwarts Legacy thing,
Yeah.
it's not 100% like that, but obviously you explore the school, you interact with NPCs, you do the story mode and stuff, but there is a section of the game that you really do have to do in order to, advance your character level, is the dueling club. You become a member of the dueling club, and every time you go up there for a duel, you learn a new skill. So it's like, here's how you disarm your opponent. Here's how you stun your opponent. Here's how you lift them. Here's how you pull them towards you. All these different skills that you learn. And what's interesting is it has that to it, where it's like you're open world, and then you get up to the dueling club. Hey, do you want to accept this duel? Click, screen goes black, loads up, and you're in a dedicated dueling space. So imagine that as your Gundam, where it's like you have this open world exploratory experience, but then when you go to particular areas, camera goes down, you're in a mobile suit, and then the mobile suit controls kick off, and then that's where you have the mission structure that you're familiar with from the arcade games.
I would completely accept that. And that reminds me of what works in these recent JRPGs I've been playing, where you're exploring the world, but then when an instance occurs, sometimes it will be its own thing. The controls change just a little bit. I'm more open to that. I shied away from JRPGs in the past, but I'm more open to that now that I've been playing them. So I think that's a great idea. Yeah, so I think the game thing is pretty obvious.
Yeah,
Of what needs to be done. Now, there's also being fragmented across timelines. I think we'd agree. I mean,
we talked
in
about this earlier, yeah.
my opinion, they should always default Universal Century just because that's what got it popular. And so there's a through line. If you get into Mobile Suit Gundam, there is that tried and true through line when then you discover Zeta. And then if you're a Chad, no, double Zeta, no, but and then Shard's counterattack, etc. Marketing focused on Japan first. So I think this is still a big issue and it doesn't make sense. G-Quux was released for everybody at the same time, translated, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Hathaway got released in Japan and we don't know when it's coming out here, Hathaway too. And I know there's merchandise, but that's not coming out yet. And then the only tie-ins they have is like if you play G Generation Eternal, which then if someone's like, oh, a Gundam video game, and that's their only then basis of a Gundam game, and they're not into it, it's like, oh, Gundam's not for me.
Yeah.
There's this Hathaway movie I want to watch. I don't know when it's coming out. It's supposed to be a new good Gundam movie. Oh, the game. I feel like for me, I get it. I'll be patient. But again, if Bandai wants to get more Westerners into Gundam, this isn't going to work. So
Yeah.
let's see. Oh, and it's saying, meanwhile, companies like Disney design IP to dominate the global market first, which may be the smart way to go about it if you're not like having mass layoffs, because like in Japan, they already these companies sometimes get bigger than they need to be, and I think that's what I think when you're going global first, you're saying, yeah, probably in a couple quarters we'll do some layoffs, but right now we're gonna dump everything in. But Japan has a Disney World.
They do.
We don't have a Gundam statue in the US.
Paris has Euro Disney, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. So that's another. We need a mobile suit should be on each continent.
100%.
Yeah.
How ridiculous is it that China got the Freedom Gundam when Freedom Country USA didn't get a single Gundam?
Okay. Good question. Off topic, real quick. What should be the Gundam they build in the US?
Wing Gundam.
Oh, okay. I think that's a really good answer.
Yeah,
You nailed
easy.
it. Easy. Okay, that was good. I agree with that 100%.
Thank you, folks.
Yeah. All right. That's the stream. No. Okay, here's this. The irony. Gundam is actually one of the top IPs ever. Despite these limitations, Gundam is still massive. Mobile Suit Gundam is estimated to have generated 25 billion lifetime revenue. That puts it in the same conversations as things like Barbie, Dragon Ball, and Transformers. And that's interesting because all three of those have varying degrees of things. Like
Yeah.
that new Transformers movie was really good, but the ones before that I didn't really care for. The newest Transformers game based off that movie is one of those games you were talking about that it's bad, but it's fun in the way that it's. I hate to say bad because what if someone that made that game maybe, but it's because it's a racing game that then in the middle of the race you transform into the robot and you're still running and shooting and then you transform back.
So I did finally watch Transformers 1, and now I
Oh.
get why the whole, like, oh, the Iacon Grand Prix or whatever they call it, like, it makes sense why they made a racing game. I
Oh,
still think it
okay.
was dumb, but, like,
Okay, I didn't realize it. Yeah. Yeah, that which I still think it would have been cooler if they made a narrative because the
100%.
story was so good in that movie.
Agreed. And
So
what's fascinating is here it says, like, "Oh, yeah, like, most of the revenue generated by Gundam is from model kits." But, like, if Barbie is in that same conversation, it's not like there was a Barbie cartoon show that put it on the map.
right, it was just
It was
dull.
just the dolls.
But I
So
think it's yeah, and it shares that lineage with Gundam because Barbie was like the first popular doll. It wasn't the first one.
no.
The first spot. Gundam wasn't the first robot model kit, but it made them really popular. So,
Yep.
and Barbie had a movie, a live action movie that did 1 billion. Um, Dragon
So what
Ball
you're
had a
telling me is that
movie.
Ryan Gosling needs to be in the Gundam movie.
Yeah, yeah. Who would he be?
Doesn't matter.
No. Slager Law.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Just the same way that everyone changed their minds about Ken because of Ryan Gosling as Ken, I think that everyone would just flock to Slugger Law. He'd be like a
Yeah,
Slugger Maxing.
I gotta admit though, I've never seen the Barbie movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But, I love the Ryan Gosling movie Drive. Not that he had
Uh-huh.
to act too much in it, but that is a great movie. Um,
He's a great actor, man.
yeah. Yeah, he is. I think that's about it. Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. I'm glad we got to kinda dive in to kinda really get an understanding of what works IP-wise in the West, what could Gundam do different. I think it's getting that movie out that we're waiting for, and then finally making a prestige game. So,
That's it.
well, cool. Well, all, thanks for joining. We'll be back next week with some more. My channel and Steven's channel linked below. Anything else, Steven? Or are we good?
Have a great weekend, y'all. Thank you
Yep,
so much. This was a lot of fun.
it was. We'll see y'all later.